Hello, Maple Run. This is John Muldoon, Assistant Superintendent for Maple Run Unified School District.
And Bill Kimball, Superintendent of Schools for Maple Run.
Welcome to Episode 5 of the Tap Into Maple Run podcast.
Yeah, this might be the one that we call extra early recording, John, being that we're here a week ahead of time. You know, one of the things we usually go over is what our schedule and what we have on it. And I'm the one who's delinquent this week because I have to go away to a New England Superintendent's Conference on Wednesday. So this is Monday, a whole week ahead of time. So we're a little bit scratching our heads here.
Oh, geez, you know, he's pretty good. He's being real honest with everyone. I was ready to just pretend that we were recording on the normal date and kind of fluff our way through it.
Yeah. Well, you know, I've learned a long time ago, if you might as well just tell it like it is. Otherwise, it's going to come back and get you somehow. So hey, John, what do you want to celebrate this week?
Well, I say I have. We've got one of our principals over for St. Albans Town Education Center that's been out a little bit, and I've had the privilege of filling in a couple situations over there. And you know, for me, it's actually like a real treat to go and spend a whole day in a school building and be just so much more involved with a smaller focus, right? Looking at like individual kids in classrooms and having some meetings with families as they might need support with things, and getting to see some of the amazing work that our faculty are doing from a different lens. And so that's been a real treat for me.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. That brings up last week. I had this free hour and a half, which is rare in my schedule. And one of the things I always say is if I have a free time in my schedule, get out and see school classrooms, because I don't get to do that enough. Mm-hmm. And I really hadn't visited city schools kindergarten classrooms. And it was an amazing morning. It was so fun for me. And I deliberately have kind of changed how I visit classrooms. I used to like pop in and pop out. Mm-hmm. And that's been my kind of mantra for years, and since I've been at Maple Run. And because of all the classrooms, I've had a hard time figuring out. And I said, no, this year, even if I don't get to all of them, I'm going to spend a good 15 minutes. And so I did that in 3 of the 4 classrooms in city school, and it was amazing to see how aligned they were. You know, we've been doing this big Amplify push and literacy push, and I got there at the same time when literacy was happening. And in one classroom, they were going over the lesson and working with the kids. And then the teacher moved to snack/choice time. And I said, well, let me go to the next classroom because I've been here for about 15 minutes. And the second teacher, she was in the same place, but with her own twist and for what her kids needed. And it was they got to the same end, not as in like the same exact place in the lesson, but the learning they wanted to have happen for the kids. Mm-hmm. But they did it differently, which was great to see. And then the third classroom I went to, I got there after that, which was choice time. And it was, you know what amazed me in all 3 classrooms, but particularly this third one, was we're only in the 4th week of school. And for kindergartners, they're great, but they're also a little squirrely, and they can be all over the place. And the routines the kids already knew showed me the hard work the teachers have done to establish routine in their classroom, which is so key, not just for kindergartners, it's for all learning, is that there was routine and schedule. And I was just blown away by the kindergarten teachers and how well they already had that established. So that's my big celebration.
Oh, I think it's great. And I know we've had a lot of conversations about how we do the first 6 weeks of school in our different buildings. And there was a little bit of inertia around this the idea, or the legacy of the idea, that the first 6 weeks of school can't have any academics in them. Right.
Yeah.
And so reconnecting back to that research and seeing that, no, actually building those initial academic routines and building exposure to the content and those early grades while kids learn those classroom routines is beneficial on both sides, the academic and the routine social emotional side. So that's exciting to hear you got to see both.
Yeah, no, it's really, really good. The other things I just want to I touched on last week in the episode, but it's just the homecoming and Powder Puff games, seeing all those folks there, and then Fairfield with their open house. So just our community celebrations that we have is just amazing. And I would invite everyone to the next couple of weeks. I know there's some middle school cross-country meets at our different schools. this will happen before this taping is released, but just this Wednesday, they're all at City School, and I know they'll be at Fairfield sometime later on in the year. And I know they've been at town once. I don't know if they go again. So it's just a great opportunity to see our middle schoolers and out there, and just the great cheering that happens for everyone. It's not just for the kids that are out in front. So, and the support.
Sounds fun.
Yeah. Do you have anything else you want to add to this before we move on
Well,
to
you
our
know,
wellness?
it's funny. I wrote it down and I wasn't going to share it, but I will, because it's not as exciting as middle school athletic events and homecoming. But we have, everything's online now. But because of some obscure federal rules and some interpretations about that, we had not moved our PD tracking and our PD approval process and reimbursement process online at Maple Run, which means we have been tracking an unbelievable amount of paper. And we were running into two problems. One, with paper, inevitably something gets lost, or things don't move between buildings very quickly. And so sometimes dates don't match what they're supposed to, and that's a problem when we come to audits. But more often than not, what would happen is teachers were trying to sign up for a PD that started relatively quickly. And for the paper to go from them to get approval in their building and then come to central office and have 2 levels of approval here, which is all required for a lot of the federal funds we use to pay for these things. Oftentimes they don't get the form back until after the course sign up is done. And we've moved that online this year, and just personally, it's so much easier to get notified when a PD form comes in and to have them all queued up. But also the feedback we're getting from staff is like, this is actually great. Like I don't have to print stuff out and attach it and mail it and wait. They can just attach digital copies to the actual form, and everything comes over instantly. And then we can also monitor the whole system if there are any bottlenecks where a bunch of forms are piling up, and then we can reach out to maybe whoever's a little overwhelmed in the moment and say, hey, can I help? Or often what it is they're busy and they forgot. So it's just been nice to keep the system flowing.
Yeah.
And a big thank you to the tech team and the business office here for making that happen.
No, that's great. I think any way we can help folks get through the paperwork so they can focus on kids and families, it's what we should do.
Yep.
What we should do.
100%.
Well, hey, let's move over to our Wellness Minute that we do with everybody in our wellness segment. And in trying to look up things for this week, we said, hey, let's talk about how do you eat healthy and how do you do meal prep. And that can always be challenging, especially when you've got a whole family going 7 different directions and all that. So, John, what's some of the things that you and your partner do every week?
Yeah, so it's the evolution of this has been a long time coming for my family. And I think, we have a 4-year-old. So it was hard because it was hard to get her involved in a way that felt productive.
I remember those days.
But actually now so Sunday afternoons are kind of this great time where we do a little bit of like tidying up around the house and thinking about the week and getting things ready. So like pre-packing some lunches, getting things ready for breakfast. And it actually was a lot of fun. My daughter just this past Sunday was, I have to give her a very specific task, right? So she was counting out, because I can't just say put a little bit of nuts in each of these containers for me to bring as a snack. She needs to know exactly how many. So she's painfully counting out, 12 nuts for each of these little containers that I put them in. But she loves it and feels so engaged and is proud of herself when she's done it. And it kind of combines involving the family and building a routine and preparing for it so that we do eat healthier.
That's great. Well, I'm kind of at the other end of that with my kids in college.
Yeah, what's the other end of the spectrum look like? My future.
Well, your future is, one of the things that's laughable in our house is my wife Amy and I have been saying to each other, and as you know, John, my youngest Emily just went to school like 4 weeks ago, and so the question has been, what did we used to eat before the kids were born that they would never eat and that we want to eat again? And we can't figure that out. It's been too many years. It's been almost 22 years for us on that. And so we've been trying to we're scouring the magazines of what we used to like that we know the kids don't like, or one kid. I think if you have a couple of kids or more, you know which one's your picky eater and which one your isn't. And I'll keep that to the Kimball family, because if I said
it's confidential,
one of the daughters would be very upset, and claim it was the other. But the biggest thing, it was about, I want to say it was like 15 years ago, we had this whiteboard that somehow came home, and I don't know if it was a present, I just don't remember. But it's a day of the week, 7 days of the week. You put up the date in the corner, Sunday through Saturday, and literally every Sunday morning we sit down and scour. And we used to have for ages like 2 or 3 subscriptions to cooking magazines.
Yep.
And now we're down to 1, but then we have all the online pieces. So it's scouring, like, what can we make? What do we get? And I'm, as you know, John, I'm the one who cooks in the house when I'm home. So like that's probably 5 nights a week. And then just trying to figure out, like, okay, what do we want and what will people eat? And so right now, the biggest challenge for us is trying to figure out how do we not make enough for 3 or 4, but for 2 of us. And so, like this week, I'm making some burritos and then going to freeze some of those for later on. And for
I was going to ask, what's on the menu for this week? So we got burritos. Anything else to look forward to?
Well, I had a chef salad last night, and then chili, and then
we made chili too last night.
Yeah, did you? Yeah, chili's. This chili's coming out of the freezer. It's from like a week ago, and then the other thing that's happening is shrimp kebabs.
You lost me there. I was on board until shrimp.
Oh, you're not a shrimp fan. Seafood, yeah. So a lot of fish and seafood in our house if we can. So it's all good though. But I think it's that Sunday routine for me, and then it's and having those favorite meals that we go to, which for us it's there's easy hamburgers because the grill's on the porch all year round working. And they're actually turkey burgers with feta cheese and spinach in them. So
nice.
That's one that we got that keeps coming back. So, but it's really just making sure you've got good wholesome food that's coming in that's fresh. Something like that. So.
Well, it's funny because I know if I don't prep it, then I'm just going to eat garbage.
Yeah, the same way. The last thing I need is anything sitting around that's just got sugar in it because I always find my way to it. So. All right, so next we've got a guest coming up, Desiree Stevens, who emailed us with a great idea. So she's going to come in next and talk to us about that. Well, welcome back, folks. We're here with Desiree Stevens from City School, and she contacted us last week about a great idea she had after she heard our talk about reading with Michael and Ashley. So,
yeah, super excited to have you and learn more about what you're thinking.
Thank you. So I have kind of floated this idea by Erin, and it seemed like the best time to bring it up to both of you. I would love to start a Maple Run book club for anybody who's interested. I've been kind of going over some stuff in my mind of what that would look like, but I think for now, for anybody who wants to join, and it would be outside of working hours, obviously, if they could just send me an email, and you can find me at dstevens@maplerun.org, and we can figure out the particulars from there. But some ideas I had was we could all kind of suggest a book, and then we could all nominate maybe with a Google poll or a Google form, and whoever's nomination gets the most votes could maybe bring the discussion questions, and we could either do it once a month or bi-monthly, or depending on how everyone feels about it.
I love the idea, Desiree. Were you thinking like education books or
No,
just pleasure books?
I was thinking pleasure books. This could be just something fun that we could all connect. My favorite thing to do every evening is read, and it would be nice to connect with other readers and just have some time outside of work to share in that.
So I remember it feels like a couple weeks ago, maybe it was even last spring, but I was at City School, and you and Dr. G and a couple people were talking about like favorite reads and books, and you had just read a book that you were so excited about, and I'm not expecting you to remember that book, but I wonder, like, have you read a book recently that has really gotten you jazzed or excited?
Yes, so many, but I recently finished, and I don't know if you guys have ever been in a reading slump, but over the summer I read Lost Man's Lane by Scott Carson, and it had all of the elements that I liked: great character development and mystery. It was very mysterious, and so it put me in a bit of a reading slump. I've now compared everything after to that book. And now every book has fallen flat until I just read God of the Woods and really enjoyed it for another reading group that I'm in. My family is from the Boston area, and we do a reading group monthly on Zoom. So I'm part of, that's the only reading group I'm part of, but it's a good way to connect with my family. So we just finished that book, and I really enjoyed that one too.
I love it. Yeah, no, that's great. It's great. It's... I think of you bring up a reading slump, and that happens to me quite a bit. But that's just where I am with reading, but there are many other ways to access. So I think this is an awesome idea. Maybe between you and Aaron, and we can talk about like how we can get that out there, and we can post it out in a few places and see if people want to join.
That would be great. I'm really excited to start. I mentioned it to a couple people at work,
yeah,
and they already said they're interested. So I think we already have a few people on board. So it'd be nice to kind of extend it to the whole district.
Yeah, I think it's great that you want to extend it to the whole district, because that does sometimes happen just by the physical workplace. Mm-hmm. So I think it'd be great.
I love it, and I think you guys need like a catchy name for the club. I don't know if you have. Does your family book club have like a name, or you just call it book club?
We just call it book club.
I don't know. So I've been in a long-standing book club with friends of mine, and we call it Book Squirrel, because anyone at any time can call Squirrel and change the book. So we might not finish a book. So it's kind of like gameplay meets reading, which is interesting and fun. But I've always thought it was interesting that we had like a fun name for it.
That is really fun. I might have to task you with the name, because I would come up with something really boring like Maple Run Book Club.
That works too.
That works, yeah. That could work as well. Yeah, that would be good. So since we have you here, can we ask you a few questions?
Sure.
That'd be great. So Desiree, I mean, we've known each other since back at BFA when you and I were working together. But tell us a little bit about how you came to where you're at in Maple Run and kind of your journey.
Yeah, so I was a stay-at-home mom for 9 years, and when my youngest went to kindergarten at City School, I started as a volunteer in Kathleen Williams' kindergarten. She had all 3 of my kids, and she was the one who said, apply to be a substitute. You would love it. So I did. And so in 2007, I started subbing, and then in 2008, I came on. Joan Cavallo started the logistics team at City School, and I came on in the logistics team. Yeah. So when I was subbing a lot in the secretarial positions, doing attendance. I'm dating myself, but our data system back then was called Win School. And
I remember that.
The way we would do attendance is we'd collect it by paper, and we'd go through and call into teachers that didn't send the paper in, and it was a really arduous process. And now we have PowerSchool. Teachers do it on their own. It's collected that way. It has evolved and changed so much, and it's fun to be part of that process and see the technology grow and change. Even though I don't do student attendance anymore, I still have my hand in it, and I've just been a part of it for so many years. And I did take a break from City School when my kids were at BFA. An attendance monitor position came at BFA, and so in 2015, I transferred to BFA. In 2021, my youngest graduated, and a position came up at City, and you were helping me as be part of the transfer back to City. Yeah. I do really enjoy the younger kids, and it was really fun to come back, and I still really enjoy being with the younger kids.
Yeah. So now you've added yourself as a reader, and a voracious reader at that. So what's one thing that most people don't know about you?
Okay, I have a really weird one. Well, I don't know if it's
we
weird,
but we all have weird stuff.
Everyone has a weird one, but so in the 90s, for like 0.3 seconds, you can see me in a music video.
Oh, nice.
So you have to have an eagle eye, and you have to be really quick on the pause button. But it was filmed in Boston. My stepsister was part of the production team. She called me to come down. It's extreme wholehearted. So I was like 13 years old, big brace face. I can send
Yeah.
you a picture of
Oh,
myself
that'd
on
be
the
great.
set.
Yeah, I want to see that.
And so that's my fun fact. I use that anytime anyone needs a fun fact because I can't think of anything else. I'm really boring.
I doubt that. I
Doesn't
doubt
sound that way.
Doesn't sound that way. Well, John, I'll let you ask a few.
Yeah, so I'm curious. You talked about loving the littles, right?
I do.
And getting really excited about that. But I wonder, like, if you could get more specific about, like, what are the best parts of your job? Like, what are the parts that bring you the most joy or the most satisfaction?
Yeah. So for the past couple years, I've been tasked with overseeing a quiet lunch for students who can't be successful in the cafeteria for many reasons, and sometimes it's bullying, and that has been a really bright spot in my day. Just knowing I like to leave every day, and even some days are frustrating, but knowing, like, I think I made a difference today. I think, and that part of my day, I feel like, you know, I helped today. I did something today that made a difference. That those kids might have had a really awful day if I wasn't there to oversee this lunch for them. So that's the bright spot.
Wow, that's great.
That's good. That's really good.
Most people try to get out of lunch duties.
Yeah.
Well, I get the cool lunch duty because I get like a quiet space where I just have 5 or 6 kids, and they're really nice kids, and they just want to have a nice lunch with their peers where they're not, you know, being teased or, you know, some of them have sensory issues and it's just too loud, and so it's nice to be able to provide that. It feels good.
Great. That's great. Yeah.
Well, so I wonder too. There's always a flip side, right? That's the highlight. But work and life can be stressful sometimes too. And we have a big wellness focus on the podcast. So I wonder if maybe you could share some of how you keep yourself grounded and balanced with the craziness we see at school.
Well, I shared with you prior to recording that every day when I get home, I take a walk with my dog. And when I'm having the hardest times, I really just stay focused. Like, okay, as soon as I get home, I'm just going to put that leash on Vito, and we're going to take a walk, and that's going to ground me and clear my head.
Wow, his name's Vito.
Vito, yes.
Vito.
Well, my favorite movie is The Godfather, so it just made sense.
Oh, there we go. There we go. That's a good movie. That's actually a great movie.
It is.
Yeah.
And so, like, what kind of walk are we talking? Are you logging a mile, 3 miles?
Oh my goodness,
Do you
he's
have
a French
normal route?
bulldog, so no, we're not. He can barely make it a mile, and we typically just walk downtown. Our normal route is, so I live in this neighborhood, so we walk to City Hall and back, but I end up carrying him part of the way because he just, when he's done, he's done. They sound like stubborn like a bull, but I think they forgot the dog part. Stubborn like a bulldog.
I love it. I just have this image of you with like a baby carrier with Vito's head popping out.
Well, I do have a carriage when I want to walk longer. Aaron and I have walked with Vito in his baby carriage before when we take longer walks.
There we go. There we go. All right, so this is where we get to turn it over to you. We ask all our guests. They have a choice of 3 things, and some have even brought a 4th or 5th idea in. But you have a choice of, you can share something that brings you joy, you can share something you're grateful for, or you can ask either of us or both of us a question, or something else.
I have prepared a question.
Okay.
So I want to know where you both see yourself professionally in 5 years.
That's a great question. It really is. I'll go first for that one. Right now, I see myself still in the superintendent's job and hopefully still here at Maple Run. I really enjoy it. This past weekend, I had a gathering that was for a mentor that retired, and it probably brought superintendents that were in Vermont superintendency for the past 30 years together.
Wow.
And I've been in it for 12 years, and they some of my original mentors were there that are literally living far out of state. I mean, not Florida, but the Carolinas type of thing, and they were back. And they said, hey, you're getting to that point where you're almost done, aren't you? And I said, I don't know. I said, I really have found the place of my whole career that I really fits the best for me.
That's awesome.
And so I'm hoping I'm still here in 5 years serving Maple Run.
That's great.
Yeah, that's a tough question because I don't really know. It's funny. I never thought I would leave the classroom, and then I became a assistant principal and then a principal, and I never thought I would leave a school building. But when I connected with people at Maple Run and interviewed for my current job, the people here were really what made me excited to come and work in a central office position. I still get to spend a lot of time in schools, which is great. And I tell Bill all the time that I feel like I have the best job in the world working with teachers on curriculum and working in some kind of focus places to support families. So I can tell you I don't know. I haven't really thought 5 years out with regard to that.
Fair.
Yeah.
I guess it means I'm happy where I am.
Sounds good.
That's a great question, and I'm glad you really asked that. It's a good one for the podcast. That people, what are the plans? So, and then as you never know, the other thing is you never know what happens day to day, and opportunities that come up for you. I know in supporting many countless people throughout my career, you never know those opportunities, and I don't think that's a bad thing if someone takes advantage of those type of opportunities when it's like, hey, this fits me better, or I'd like to go try this, or I just need a change. So I think that I never have begrudged anyone because that's something they wanted to do. So I also know this community likes to keep people around for a long time too.
Yes.
So Desiree, thanks so much. We love your idea. I'm going to ask Aaron, who's always here helping produce the show when we're recording, to kind of help get the news out about this. Hopefully, we're almost a week ahead of when this is going to drop as a podcast, but we can get planned on how we do that, and we'll probably just hand it right over to you.
Sounds
you can
good.
be the leader of it.
That's great.
Which will be awesome.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks. All right, so we're back. Thanks to Desiree. She had a great idea there for having a reading club for Maple Run. She said she's going to run it, which will be awesome. Hopefully a lot of people join her and have some great reads. And I was glad to hear her say that she was going to focus on enjoyment books and pleasure books instead of educational books. I read way too many of those. So
yeah, I'm excited, and I'm actually thinking I might even try and join for a book. We'll see how it goes. Also, I can't wait to see the name.
Oh, yeah.
Hope they come up with something fun.
A cool name, yeah. So we're going to our mailbag section here. We still have plenty of questions from the students that submitted them, so we're taking a couple from there, and then a couple from one of the staff, and one from one of the staff. So Marie Disorder, again, she sent us a ton of questions, but I like this one. And so, John, I thought we'd start out with this. What made you want to become an educator?
That's a great question. So I was determined actually not to be an educator. I come from a family that had lots of educators, and I don't know why, I just felt like I needed to do something different. And I studied business and accounting and economics in college, and I felt like that was going to be my path in life. And then I just actually found it really, I was good and successful at it, but I found it lacking for meaning for me. And so after a couple years, I went through this kind of reevaluation of my career choice and connected with this idea of service, which has always been really important to me, and explored careers related to that. And so I thought about becoming a police officer or firefighter. My brother's a firefighter, and so I had to cross that one off the list. I feel like, only one in the family. Basically everyone I was talking to as I was going through this was like, God, I just feel like you would be a great teacher. And I decided to give it a try, and took the tests necessary to get a temporary license in Massachusetts when we were living down there. And then I took a 1-year job teaching math, which is not what I thought I wanted to teach, but I was able to for a year and absolutely fell in love with it.
That's great.
Never looked back.
That's great. Yeah.
How about you? What got you thinking of it?
My thing was it's being a skier, growing up as a ski racer and doing that through college, and then being an assistant coach at a college, which didn't pay very well back in the late 80s, early 90s. It was, okay, how do I still coach kids and do that? And that was looking destined to be a high school teacher of some sort, whether I went with a ski academy, which is where I first was at, which was teach 1 or 2 classes and then be a coach, or and found out real quickly just from that experience at a ski academy for 1 year that I liked teaching more than I did coaching. And then so that just evolved right into me to going back and getting my master's degree and becoming a teacher. So that's how I did it. And it was just that drive. And I mean, that's why to this day I still work with kids on skiing, but not to the degree I did then.
So funny. It seems like it kind of surprised both of us how much we liked it.
Yeah, no, it was a real change for me. So it was great. All right, I think you've got a question over there.
I do. I've got the next one. This one comes from Katie Campbell, who's a literacy interventionist over at St. Albans Town Education Center and co-president of our association here. And the question is, how do you handle a stakeholder that challenges a decision that you feel has already been made or that you feel is final?
That's a really good question. Those are tough circumstances, but I think the first thing you have to do is you have to listen to them. Because they may come up with a point of view that you haven't heard about, or something that they may have new information that wasn't considered in the decision. I think everyone deserves a fair hearing, and explain to them, if you can't change the decision, why you're staying with a decision that you feel is final, that's been made already. As being the superintendent, people might challenge a principal and then say they have to come and ask me about that. But I have to really think long and hard. Is that new information or that something that's already been heard? And when I sit down and listen to someone like that, I actually don't want to talk to the principal first. I want to hear from them, and then I go hear what's happened within the system. And if I think they've had a fair hearing, I'll go back to them and say, hey, that I need to support, especially if it's along with our policies, practices, and procedures, and we follow them. Then that's what we need to do. Because the worst thing that can happen is overturn a decision because of a person, not because of something we have set in a policy, practice, or procedure. It actually causes more chaos in the system, although it may be upsetting or to one individual. So.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I think so. You kind of define the two things you're looking at separately, but and with different terms than I think about them in. But it's really about that process, right? Integrity of the process, and then also that facts, information, and context piece. And they're both important. I think people get stuck on one or the other sometimes.
Right. And you can't separate the two. But you got to look at both of them thoroughly.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So here's the last question from Marie that we'll have in today's episode. Why is a round pizza come in a square box?
I love this question. First of all, thank you, Marie, for including this on your list. And I wasn't sure what direction I was going to go with this, but I decided that instead of just making something up, I was going to Google it and see if there was an answer readily accessible for us. And it turns out there is. And for
you're no fun going right to Google.
Well, for the audience, Bill Kimball beat Google. He knew right away.
I've taught enough geometry classes to know why.
Yep, and it is because it is simpler, cheaper, and easier to make a square box than a round one. The big thing here is that you can have a square box as a single sheet of cardboard and ship it and store it that way, and then only turn it into a square box, when the round pizza is ready to go in it. Yeah. So no, I was ready with conspiracy theories about pizzas and boxes, but the facts of the case won out on this one.
You had to teach. I have taught high school geometry, but this is also a classic middle school, 7th, 8th grade geometry spatial project, and trying to get it the most economical way to ship a round pizza. So
okay,
it's a good one. It's a good one.
Thanks, Marie.
Yeah, it's a good question. All right, so that's it for this episode of Maple Run. We still need more questions. We had a suggestion from a viewer this week about someone else to bring aboard, so we'll take those as well. But you can always give in questions, comments, suggestions for folks we should have on at tapin@maplerun.org.
That's right. And if you guys don't send us questions, I think we're just going to have to make stuff up.
I think so, too. I think that's the next thing to do. All right. We'll talk to you next week. Thanks, all.
Have a good one.